So I didn't expect to be talking to you about the Nintendo 3DS in 2018 outside of that super average Kirby game, but here we are. The thing is still kicking, and Nintendo, through their Nintendo Direct from a few days ago, just laid out what the next year and even past that looks like for the system. So here we are. This is really weird. Let's jump into it. So the games they were talking about in the Nintendo Direct were a few re-releases, reskins, and all of that, but you know, a game is a game, and at the end of the day, there's still going to be something new to play on your 3DS this year. So let's go through some of those announcements. Coming soonest on March 23rd, we've got Detective Pikachu, which is a re-release, sort of a localization of the Great Detective Pikachu from Japan. It's my understanding that there's going to be a little extra content than the original Japanese release, and the original Japanese release got a little DLC on the back end of Detective Pikachu, but this adventure is finally coming to us. It's going to be priced at a full $40, and it's getting a physical release over here alongside a large amiibo. Why is the amiibo large? I have no idea. I don't know if I like that or not. Part of me likes that it feels more of like a collectible, and the other part makes me feel bad that it doesn't fit in my collection. So we'll just have to see if I ever pick that up. I'll show it off to you. Next up, we have the Sushi Strikers IP that Nintendo has just created. Sushi Striker, The Way of Sushido. I love how dumb that sounds. But anyway, this game is also coming to Nintendo Switch, so I don't really think it's going to move a whole lot of units on the 3DS, not a system seller in any sense of the word, but it is going to be something to stick around for, and if you want it more portable than it is on the Switch, then 3DS version is for you, I guess. After that, we're going to have Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, a Wii U game that they're porting down to 3DS, which is a thing that we got a lot of. I mean, in terms of Mario Maker on the 3DS, in terms of Yoshi's Woolly World, both of which had added content just for the 3DS version, which was a nice little rub of salt in the wound of anybody who bought those games on Wii U and were supporting them there. But now we've got one of the Wii U's treasures, Toad Treasure Tracker, coming to the system as well. And that's going to be also coming to the Switch. So again, don't really know what audience they're hitting here. I guess people that aren't going to buy a Switch for a few years because they don't have the money or don't feel like it has a rich enough library yet. But, you know, hey, it's like I said, 3DS game is a 3DS game, and I missed one because the way Nintendo displays it on their website is they haven't even figured out box art for it yet. WarioWare Gold coming in August 3rd. That's actually, I thought that was coming sooner. That is coming in August. That's going to be a compilation of a lot of WarioWare titles, so for someone like me who hasn't had a whole lot of exposure to the series, definitely picking that up. Kind of wish it was on Switch, but, you know, I'll take it where I can get it. And that's sort of the discord I've been hearing around the internets, because we also had Luigi's Mansion finally being remade, but being remade to the 3DS, where people are having debates on whether it's actually going to look better or not. And I kind of see where those people are coming from, and that's where we'll land a little bit with the controversy of this whole discussion. So we've got Luigi's Mansion coming to the 3DS, and while that's great that we're going to see that game again, it could have been a Switch release or even just a re-release in the sense of virtual console, whatever they're going to call that iteration. You know, so far it's been the arcade classics, and hopefully we would have seen it on the Switch along with some other games that we have been rumored to see, like Super Mario Sunshine, but it's going to live on the 3DS, where the 3DS is going to die. You'd have to assume at some point in 2019. I mean, this is a pretty thin lineup of games, according to Nintendo's website. 12 games that are coming soon to the Nintendo 3DS, just 12 documented experiences that are making their way there, and that's a little slim. And there's other games that are coming that aren't on this list, but they're not huge in number, and they're not huge in sort of the weight that they bring. They're mostly RPG titles that from the likes of Square and Atlas. Not to discount those titles being good or not, but it's just not the type of game that is really going to create a buzz on the 3DS and keep it going for another few months or another few years. Luigi's Mansion, the 3DS version, is kind of just a weird fit for that reason. Dark Moon came to the 3DS. It did well there. It was a cool game to play on the 3DS, but Luigi's Mansion has always been a visually interesting game, and so I would have loved to personally see that as an HD version. And a lot of other Switch owners feel the same way. A lot of people who haven't upgraded to the Switch yet are feeling like it's nice to have another game coming their way. About the whole resolution thing, we don't know if it's going to look better or not. And the reason for that is because Nintendo is capturing footage on the 3DS, which, if I don't know how they do it, but I had a hole drilled in mine from some guy in Japan. And when you capture footage straight from the 3DS onto your computer, you blow up the resolution to make it fit inside of that 1080p resolution that you're trying to export inside of a YouTube video. And it always looks a little bit like garbage, and the screen itself, at least with the new 3DS and the new 3DS XL, does look a lot better than it will show in a YouTube video for that reason. That being said, I mean, the 3DS is so similar to the GameCube and the sort of power that it outputs. We've seen Wii games downported for it. We've seen Wii U games ported over for this, but it hasn't been... You know, it's not like they port Woolly World over there and it looks just as beautiful as the Wii U counterpart. So it is quite a dip in power compared to the Switch. So it would have been nice to see it there, or even do the Captain Toad route of porting it both ways. But I suppose that you have to have a reason to get the 3DS, and you have to have a reason to keep your 3DS and not sell it back to GameStop. So I guess this is that. Also, we've got another Mario & Luigi remake, which is going to bring the total of Mario & Luigi games on the 3DS to about 12. And even, like, as a fan of the series, and knowing that Bowser's Inside Story is the best title in the series and my personal favorite one, it doesn't... like when I watched the Nintendo Direct, even I rolled my eyes a little bit at that title coming out, because while I'm happy to see it again, just Mario in general, and especially the Mario & Luigi and Mario RPG series, has just been so samey lately. I just finished Paper Jam a couple weeks ago, and that is just the pinnacle of oversaturation for both that series and the Paper Mario series. When you have the two series cross over and you just have two of everything, and it just kind of illustrates the problem of, like, this is getting boring. This is not, like, let the series breathe a little bit. Personally, I think it's time to retire the Mario & Luigi series or completely redefine it, and to see them have the chance to do some sort of crossover game with any of Nintendo's characters, or even any Mario character. I mean, you think of the possibilities there, that they could have crossed over with Wario, or Wario and Waluigi. They could have crossed over with Yoshi or Donkey Kong and Diddy, and they chose Paper Marios to do this mishmash of, like, oh, there's two Bowsers and two Peaches and two Marios. There's so many Marios. Like, after they did a game that was all about lots of Luigis, it was just the absolute pinnacle of my frustration with that series. And to see that coming back so soon after they re-released the Superstar Saga is, like I said, I was rolling my eyes. That being said, I'm sure I have about a year to get over it, and I think I will, because it'll be nice to see that series, the I think second time where we've gotten to play Bowser the third time that we've gotten to play Bowser in an RPG series. So the way that they do his character in that game, if you haven't experienced it, that's going to be a treat for you. And that's the type of game that probably wouldn't work on a Switch port, because it had two screens to begin with and utilized a lot of DS features. So it'll be nice to see that game get a little HD coat of paint before we never see it again, because I can't imagine DS games being ported to the Nintendo Switch in any sense, unless they were going to completely remake it. So that is the upcoming set of 3DS games. Like I said, it's been a pretty quiet year so far. We got the Kirby Battle Royale game. That's sort of their big game that they're marketing right now, and that is a Kirby game about online multiplayer, where the online multiplayer is limited. It's really ironic, but you can't team up with your friends or send them, like, a request to be in the same lobby. You can't choose whether you're doing team battles or free-for-all battles. You can't choose what kind of battle you are. It's all random, like selecting a track on Mario Kart. And I think that's just such a flub. That's such a flub to have a game that centers around the online multiplayer experience and make that be as Nintendo as possible. And when I say Nintendo as possible, I mean just very limited and not very in this decade as far as online multiplayer is concerned. Other semi-notable releases that we've got coming to the 3DS are the Shovel Knight DLC, but of course Shovel Knight is available on pretty much any platform that plays games. I think they even got it on calculators by now. And we've got Dylan's Dead Heat Breakers? Strange title. But Dylan is a cool enough series. It was one of the sort of like AA darlings of the early 3DS life, and we had other games like Harmonite and Sakura Samurai. Dylan was the one that I couldn't really get into ever. It's a strange mix of tower defense and racing, and all that being said, I appreciate that it exists. I appreciate that we're getting another one of those titles. It'll be nice to see them really experiment further with that genre blending that nobody's really doing. So I'm satisfied with that coming out. That's coming out May. It was funny how much of a centerpiece that was in the Nintendo Direct, which just kind of illustrates that the 3DS is on its way out. But I think going forward, Nintendo really needs to focus on the strategy of sort of making that Nintendo Selects process a little more simplified. I remember at some point they announced that they were going to discount games like a month before they did it. It just hit the switch. Make a lot of those games that have done so well on the platform. You know, I think most recently they gave that treatment to A Link Between Worlds, but just look through the catalog, give people steep discounts, and make that sort of your monthly thing for the Switch. Because if we look at it now, we've got Detective Pikachu in March, and then we have to wait a few months until May to get the Dylan sequel that somebody's waiting for, and then we have to wait a few months to get into Captain Toad, and then another month to get WarioWare Gold, and then who knows what Luigi's Mansion is hitting, and then we've got the Mario and Luigi game hitting in 2019. I feel like a great way for Nintendo to, and you could go ahead and take my advice on this. You don't even have to give me credit, you know? It's cool. Go ahead and every month give a spotlight where you don't have a major release happening. Give a spotlight to a game that has been previously adored. Give it at a steep discount, even if it's at $20. Like, knock it down a little bit more and just make that a must-grab, must-have purchase for the 3DS. And the people who are still hanging on to them, who have missed those games, they'll snatch them up like hotcakes. And I think that creates a little bit more buzz for the 3DS. I mean, you can see even some of these games that have more of an online angle, they can really get a second breath of fresh air, or breath of life with this sort of strategy where you can pour more people into the online system. And there's not too many 3DS games that really embrace online, but you know, Kirby Battle Royale a couple months down the road, maybe patch the game and make it better first, but discount it and get a lot more people into the ring and playing that game. But apart from that, it looks like this is where the 3DS is going to end. We'll get the Detective Pikachu, which is an original game. We'll get Dylan, which is an original game. But outside of that, we got ports and re-releases coming, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think that for, you know, you're hitting some group of people. There are people out there who don't have a Switch and won't have one for another year or so, and that's totally fine. But I just can't believe that we're still talking about this. I think I predicted the 3DS would be dead in 2017, and then again in 2018, and it's still here. It's a fantastic success story, and I think I'd like to, at some point, go down the entire history of the Nintendo 3DS, because it's a really interesting story. You know, they started with just an absolute market failure, then had to steeply discount the system, and then gave a bunch of free games to the people who already bought it to not piss them off. And it's just been a really interesting and wild ride. And to think that we are arriving here where the thing has outlived its competition, the PlayStation Vita, that's just really interesting. So that has been a look at what's coming for the 3DS this year. If you like this sort of content, be sure to hit the subscribe button to be up to date on all the latest Nintendo news, reviews, impressions, all that fun stuff. I've got some Amazon affiliate links to some of the games and systems talked about in this discussion, so if you order those, we get a kickback as that sale being part of the show. And so we'd really appreciate if you're going to buy those games anyway, you go ahead and shop through those links and we get a little kickback from that. And that's about all I got for you today. So I'll be in your feed tomorrow night for some more Nintendo news, and whatever happens, if nothing happens, we'll just break down more of that direct, and let me know just any feedback you have for the show. I'd really appreciate it in the form of an iTunes review or a comment down below on whatever platform you're listening on. And again, just thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a great day. Hope you're enjoying your 3DS and that you continue to. And I'll see you next time for more Nintendo Nightly.